Today's show is dedicated to a part of LA history and American culture that contains some sensitive images and violent events. Viewer discretion is advised. You know the city, you've seen the parties, but do you know the fascinating history of LA's LGBTQ community?
The start of the movement was right here in Los Angeles.
This is Eye on LA Pride. Hi everyone, I'm Tina Malave, and for the last 50 years, our LGBTQ plus community has come out to celebrate themselves and each other in what was originally known as the Christopher Street West Pride Parade. But for this community, showing their pride hasn't always been easy. So today we're taking a look back at some of their inspiring and courageous LA history.
You know, this year is also the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which many people think about as the contemporary start of our movement.
There is a little bar in the Greenwich Village called the Stonewall, just a dive, but it was frequented by our brothers and sisters. The police came in to harass the bar, psychological brutality instead of physical brutality, and at some moment, one became so angry they simply fought back, and then commenced 3 days of vigorous rioting, and from their courage comes much courage to others.
And that riot was really an important moment because it was a flashpoint. That's why the parade here is called the Christopher Street West Parade, because it was a commemoration of that event.
But long before Stonewall, the gay rights movement was rising up right here in Los Angeles.
We're at One Archives at the University of Southern California Libraries. We are the largest LGBT archive in the world. We've been operating as a gay rights institution since 1952, and we began publication of the first national gay magazine called One in 1953. There's been a lot of erasure of gay and lesbian history, and so part of our role and our mission is to correct that error. We need to understand the errors of the past in order to be able to correct the future.
One Archives lovingly preserves LGBTQ history, like the first known lesbian publication in the world, Vice Versa, which was secretly printed from the basement of Hollywood's RKO studios in the mid-40s by a young secretary named Edith Eade, who went by the pseudonym Lisa Ben, an anagram for lesbian.
You could be arrested for LGBT activism. So folks were very careful back in those days. Los Angeles is really important in the beginning of the gay and lesbian movement. You have organizations like the Mattachine Society that starts in 1950, and Harry Hay is the leader of that.
The Mattachine Society is considered one of the earliest gay rights organizations in the United States. A sign commemorates these Silver Lake stairs that led to the original meeting place at Harry Hay's home.
They were meeting sort of staggering their entrance into the home so that people couldn't see them because there was a law against illegal congregation.
Every little law that I hear has been mind-blowing.
Right, and you know there was no touching at all, same-sex touching.
There is no touching allowed at all.
No.
Someone would give us a warning, so by the time the police came, we had twirled ourselves into happy heterosexual couples, and they couldn't get us, and they would be so mad.
It used to be against the law to serve a homosexual a drink in a bar.
There was even a law here in Los Angeles. If you wore 3 articles of the opposite sex's clothing, then you could be arrested.
But the very first riot that anybody can document happened right in Los Angeles in 1959 at Cooper Donuts. And this was a donut place that was frequented by gay men and transgender folks right in between 2 gay bars.
Cooper's Donuts was on Main Street in downtown LA and frequently raided by police.
And they'd finally had enough. And so they fought back with paper plates and donuts, and Main Street was closed for a day.
But it was a raid at the Black Cat Bar in Silver Lake on New Year's Eve 1967 that would set off a chain reaction of local activism.
There were about 11 undercover officers in the bar, and when 2 men kissed at the stroke of midnight, they were arrested. Several people were dragged out of the bar. It was a raid, essentially, and the 2 men had to register as sex offenders.
I felt rage that human beings could be treated like that.
That rage compelled Alexei Romanov to take action and help organize what is now recognized as the very first LGBT protest in the U.S., a protest as historic as it was dangerous.
There was fear. We could be attacked, but they had been sick and tired, they had had enough, and they weren't going to take it anymore.
That was the first time 500 to 600 men and women came together that could be identified as being gay in the United States and protested in public in an organized demonstration.
They cannot beat the gay out of us.
For the first time, people stood up and said, I'm queer and I'm okay, and you either like it or leave me alone.
What was the atmosphere like towards the gay and lesbian community?
Oh, it was hostile, as hostile as you can imagine.
In the 1960s and 70s, the hostility was visible. It was brutal, and it encouraged mainstream violence against all members of the LGBTQ community.
We had followed on the heels of the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the Chicano uprising in East LA, and many of us had been in those movements, and we were thinking, well, when's our time? When's our turn as another oppressed minority?
I'm not sure when we became mentally ill, when they put that in the DSM.
Up until the 70s, the American Psychiatric Association, or the APA, listed homosexuality as a mental illness.
What I think particularly annoyed gays and lesbians when we clashed with the APA was the fact that there were beginning to be used really awful techniques to supposedly cure homosexuals.
So this is a behavioral modification kit. It was actually targeted towards people who wanted to, at home, realign their children's sexuality. If you registered a response that was positive to images of the same sex, then you could remotely shock your child.
In 1971, a group of psychiatrists converged at the Biltmore Hotel, intending to screen a film promoting electric shock therapy as a cure for homosexuality. But the Los Angeles Gay Liberation Front zapped some sense into them.
We went and infiltrated quietly. One of our number suddenly stood up and said, "Are we going to stand for this?" And we all stood up in the auditorium and said, "Hell no."
No more, baby. No more, baby. It's all over. If you can dig it, stay. If you can't dig it, we ask you to leave.
Members of the Gay Liberation Front broke off into groups and began a dialogue with the remaining psychiatrists who were willing to listen.
Wonderful conversations went on. In fact, there was one psychiatrist who said to me, "This is the first time I've ever seen a happy homosexual."
The activists continued to meet with the APA until they finally removed homosexuality as a mental illness in 1973. It was a victory, to be sure, but many other battles waged on.
The church is a very formidable part of the African American society. Big part, huge part. And so when you have the church putting you down and saying it's an abomination, it wasn't easy.
But in 1968, the LGBT community found a church that did embrace them. Founded by Reverend Troy Perry, the Metropolitan Community Church was the world's first LGBT church.
Metropolitan Church came about, and there was family, there was friends, it was a place where they could go and still worship and not be put down for loving who they loved.
From that church, the world's first gay synagogue emerged in 1972, which they named Beth Haim Hadashim. Translation, House of New Life. Today, Metropolitan Community Church has more than 200 congregations in 33 countries, and Reverend Perry would have many more historic firsts, including the founding of the Christopher Street West Pride Parade.
We've decided to make it an annual day for homosexuals all across the nation, but we're here to let America know that we exist. We're not a myth of any type.
Today, pride parades are celebrated by millions of people in countries all around the world. Throughout the 70s and 80s, our LGBTQ communities were still dealing with harassment and persecution by the LAPD, but they were also struggling with an issue within the community.
Studio! Lights! Music!
The community was wrestling with the issue of how to deal with racial diversity. You know, particularly in West Hollywood, there were huge challenges around bars discriminating against people of color, particularly black men and women.
But there was one place that everyone was welcome.
But it was just known as Catch One. The guys, one of their terms for going out and picking up was catching one. Part of my first business cards, I put in parentheses or more.
Catch one or more. Yeah. The documentary, Jewel's Catch One, is a fascinating look at how lesbian activist and business owner Jewel Thais Williams built one of the most famous gay clubs in the world.
The dance hall rules at that time would not allow same-sex dancing. So that's why disco was so popular. You could come in and just walk in the room and dance. We were probably the first club with any size to it that had men and women dancing and commingling together. It was big and it was jumping, the music was hot, and the celebrities came.
It's a fat club and it's a fat neighborhood.
What was the vibe like?
Electric. There was so much energy in it. It was good, clean fun.
But being an African American, woman, lesbian club owner came with a constant fight. How often were you harassed by the police at that time?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And I heard that it was not uncommon just to see the cop cars parked out in front of your place with the lights on.
Yeah, trying to discourage people from coming in. And it did, but mostly they kept coming. To be able to come in and see 1,000 folks like them in the room had to be touching. I know it was for me.
Jewel ran the Catch One from 1973 to 2015, but in the summer of 1981, everything would change.
The AIDS epidemic, said the headlines.
It hit fast and it hit hard, and it was deadly. It wasn't in a closet that was deep enough for them to hide in.
We didn't know what was causing it. Did kissing cause it? Did hugging cause it? And so there was a lot of ignorance about it, but there was also a lot of fear.
And this was something that was very personal to your life as well.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. You know, when I moved to Los Angeles in 1982, my partner was Chris Brownlee. The Chris Brownlee Hospice is named after him. We soon discovered that he had AIDS. We suspected that I was infected. When we originally got here, there was no test.
Unfortunately, the Reagan administration's response was to ignore it.
With virtually no AIDS research funding, it would take an excruciating 4.5 years just to develop a test.
By 1986, when they developed the HIV test, we discovered, as we had assumed, that I was HIV positive.
All of the men around us were dying, and they weren't being helped. And we were sort of on our own.
Up until this time, there had been a kind of separatism between the gay and the lesbian communities, but the AIDS crisis created a new feeling of unity.
A lot of lesbian women started taking care of gay men with the disease, so there was a reunification.
They became the Florence Nightingales, and very often for folks that didn't have anybody else to turn to.
HIV was seen as only a white gay men's disease. The truth of the matter is it never was only a white gay men's disease. Globally, quite frankly, it was always a people of color disease. Globally, it was always a disease that disproportionately impacted women. And from that, I eventually got very, very involved in policy and political work, and eventually serving on national boards for both President Clinton and President Obama, which ultimately brought about things like the American with Disabilities Act to protect people living with HIV, and the Affordable Care Act.
And while there have been tremendous medical and social advances, there's one group that continues to be devastatingly marginalized.
So we were really moving in a good direction. There were so many more stories that were celebrating trans lives. We were seeing trans actors and actresses playing trans roles. The stories of youth were actually becoming much more available. And, you know, with this administration, permission to discriminate and be openly hostile, that's the story of America right now.
And a scuffle broke out when a man struck one of the protesters.
Bambi Salcedo is a powerful activist and a speaker for transgender rights. She is also my friend. Here at the Trans Latina Coalition, she reads from her poem, Aquí Estoy.
It is you who tells me that I am no one. It is you who tells me that I am not worth it. Feeling the pain in my heart because I have seen my sisters being killed over the years. I have seen my sisters being stabbed, shot, strangled, burned, buried alive. I have seen how society thinks that it's okay to kill us. You know, trans people right now are in the eye of the media, right? And because of that, many people think the quality of life that we have is changing. But the truth is that the social conditions that we continue to live and experience are still the same as if they were in many ways in the 60s. Legislatively, academically, economically, there's studies that show that trans people today make about $10,000 a year. But we as a community are resilient, and many of us who are trans are really coming into our power. And I can definitely say that I am one of those individuals. So the Trans Latino Coalition started in 2009. We got our first grant from the Elton John AIDS Foundation. We are the very first trans-led organization providing critical and life-saving services for our community. We currently have a drop-in space where people can just come and be, you know, a safe space. If they need clothes, they could get clothes. We also do policy. So we're expanding very rapidly. We're building, I would like to say, trans power.
How can allies that are outside of the LGBTQ community help?
Come and hang out with us. Come and see, you know, who we are as a community, and understand that we are capable of accomplishing many things if we are provided opportunities. Let's understand our humanity and contribute for us as a community to get to a better place within our society.
With the iconic Hollywood sign in the distance, the Los Angeles LGBT Center is carving out its own niche in LA history. It's literally changing lives and has been for a remarkably long time.
It's our 50th year of service to our community. More than anything else, we're a social services organization, and we're helping people in need, mostly low-income and poor people. And our biggest program is our health services program, which provides medical care, mental health services, substance use programming, and takes care of people's physical and mental needs.
And today, that help flows out of the Anita Mae Rosenstein campus, their brand new flagship facility, which added 100 beds for homeless youth, a new senior center, and an educational academy. A star-studded grand opening in April 2019 officially ushered in a new chapter for the center.
Imagine if you're a homeless youth, you come in, and what's the first thing you see? You are beautiful. Because part of what we're doing here is we're rebuilding their self-esteem. And teaching them, convincing them that they are worthy.
You're gonna make me cry, Lori.
I know, I
You're gonna
know.
make me cry.
And besides being the largest LGBT center in the world, it was also the very first.
Back in 1969, there were a group of very courageous and visionary gay and lesbian activists, and they began to organize.
It's hard to imagine the founders could have ever dreamed that 50 years later, their efforts would become a $141 million organization.
We're getting kids into college, and of course, we're providing scholarships and financial aid. This is the location where we're going to build our 99-unit apartment building for seniors. Senior Services is our fastest growing program. We are about 4 times more likely than our straight counterparts to live alone and to not have any family to support us.
I love this place.
I do too. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I've been here for 27 years, and it still blows my mind.
Did you ever think that in your lifetime you would see the Marriage Equality Act be passed?
No, I never thought that.
Over the years, the activists for LGBT equality had been making progress. And in 2005, in California, both the Senate and the Assembly passed the Marriage Equality Bill. That bill needed only one more signature, the governor, who happened to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when that bill landed on his desk, he vetoed it. And we were raging. We were angry. And that's when I came out. The right wing, in their determination to make sure that it doesn't happen again, came up with Proposition 8. They wanted to write into the California State Constitution that marriage equality will never happen here in California.
One of the worst days in my adult life was when Proposition 8 was passed by the people of California and they took our rights away.
It would take 7 more years of fighting, but on June 25, 2015, the Supreme Court made marriage equality the law of the land.
We are going to get our marriage license today. Isn't that extraordinary and isn't that wonderful?
People ask, well, why are you so strident and why do you make such a... It's because we have to be out there for the next generation.
I think that the thing that I am most proud of is that, you know, if you are an LGBTQI person in the United States today, there is a way for you to find home. And I think that from the very, very beginning of time, that's what it's been about.
The idea that we've been able to win so many battles, I mean that Pete Buttigieg is actually running to be president. To think these wonderful people are brave enough to come out and do these things, it's just really moving.
We cannot forget that our fight is far from over. But tonight we celebrate that we can change the world.
To learn more about the places we visited, the services they offer, and to donate to these remarkable organizations, go to abc7.com/IONLA and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Tina Malave, and I'm proud to be an ally. We'll see you next time.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe to our Eyewitness News YouTube channel.